All right. Well, I'm going to get us going. So this is the October business meeting for the VOREC Steering Committee. I'm Jackie Dagger, the program manager for the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative. And just as a reminder, we hold these bi-monthly meetings, and they are informal opportunities for steering committee members to stay connected throughout the year and learn what's happening in the various parts of the outdoor recreation sector in our state. Um, so I see we have Brett joining us. Really great to see you, Brett. Um, we're a pretty small group today. I heard from Ava, Shelby, and Fraser that they all have conflicts. So we may be able to wrap up early. We'll see, but we're gonna do our round robin updates as normal. Um, and I do just want to start with a couple of updates about VOREC activities and housekeeping that's been going on since the last time we met or had a business meeting, which was back in, I want to say August that we met last. Any questions before we get going? I think as we go around and do our round robins, please just start with your name and organization so we can be efficient with our time this morning. Sound good? Great. Awesome. Um, all right. So so housekeeping items. So Becca, Heather, and I have been moving forward on recruitment of new steering committee members. As you guys are very aware, we have some open positions, and you all shared nominations with us earlier this year, and we've been really working hard to identify top candidates and connect with those candidates to fill our open seats. We're really excited about the people we've been talking to, and we have confirmed with Justin Sutera, who owns Back to the Earth Wilderness Programs, Claire Rock, who is with Bolton Valley Resort. She also previously worked for the Regional Planning Commission, as well as Nick Mahood from Woodstock Inn and Resort, that they all have accepted their nominations. And we're in the early stages of moving that forward to the governor, recommending them to join the steering committee. Ultimately, it's the governor's decision who sits on the VOREC steering committee. So we'll have to wait to hear back from the governor's office. But we feel really good about these three candidates and are really excited to share the acceptance of their nominations with you all. Um, Becca, Heather, I'm wondering if you want to share any words. Becca and Heather both connected with these folks directly to gauge their interest and availability, and just any other thoughts from your connections with those three folks that you'd like to share.
I think, each and every person that I spoke with, I spoke to Justin and Claire, and both were really pumped about the opportunity. I think Justin's coming in understanding that it's important for us to have all the different forms of recreation represented. And his particular angle is through programming for youth and adults related to hunting, trapping, orienteering out in the wilderness. So I think he's going to present a really fun addition. And then ski areas is something that, for whatever reason, was deliberately omitted from the composition of the steering committee initially when it was formed in 2017. And I think since that time, we've missed their participation. And having Claire Rock participate from Bolton will be a way to address that missing voice. I think in a really powerful way because Claire does have that planning background at the regional and municipal scale, as well as now applying that in a ski resort setting, which I think is going to be a really cool voice to hear from.
And I can pick up on that. I talked to Nick, and he also brings a different perspective from the Nordic side of things on the ski industry, which I think will be helpful. And then also trying to help us fill a niche in the hospitality space and how those things kind of come together. So he was equally excited. And I had another conversation with someone who's still considering the nominations. I won't mention them by name, but Just as Becca said, I think this group is well respected, and there was definitely enthusiasm for participating.
Great. So more to come there. Like I said, we'll be making that recommendation to the governor's office and we'll keep you guys updated on how that goes. Um, so Move Forward Together Vermont implementation. We have been moving forward a lot on implementation of Move Forward Together Vermont. I shared a newsletter with our email list, I think about a month ago or so. And I don't know, I think some of you are on that email list. If you're not, I can definitely add you. But it shared all of the events that I would be attending over like from August to now or through November, really. Raising awareness about Move Forward Together Vermont, this really large scale strategic vision for outdoor recreation in the state. And also naming a couple of implementation session opportunities that we have. The first of which happened at the Vermont Conference on Parks, Trails, and Recreation this week. So I'll talk about that a little bit. But just as a reminder, those events, there we did two with the Vermont Outdoor Business Alliance, the Outdoor Innovation Showcase at Burton. That was in August, as well as an equity partners fundraiser that they led at American Flatbread. Both of those highlighted Move Forward Together Vermont. We had the Move Forward Together Vermont one pager. We talked a little bit about what that strategic vision is. I was also at Hit the Trail with the Central Vermont Council on Aging. Um, Lamoille Valley Bike Tours was also there, although Ava, as I was mentioning before we started the call, was busy, so she didn't end up being there. But it was a really great event. It was an opportunity to connect with some folks from the health world and make the connection with Move Forward Together Vermont. I also attended the New England States Governance Finance Officers Association annual meeting and was on a panel talking about outdoor recreation economy and Move Forward Together Vermont. And earlier this week, I also attended the Northern Vermont Economic Development District meeting with Abby, which was her first meeting with those folks in her new role. And we also talked about Move Forward Together Vermont there. Like I said earlier this week, just Wednesday and Thursday, so just a couple days, we spent together at the Vermont Conference on Parks, Trails, and Recreation. We held our first implementation session at that event, which was really exciting. And I want to give a huge shout out to Sarah and Jeff for participating in that workshop. It was really well attended. I think every seat in the room was full. And it was our first opportunity to touch base with partners on a pretty robust list of projects, 3 to 4 under each priority action, and engage with them to help us think about how are we prioritizing these projects? How do these projects help you on the ground in your various roles? And I'm really excited to think about like how the prioritization of those projects feeds into the VOREC action plan. So we still have one additional implementation session that's going to be happening at the VOBA Outdoor Economy Summit in November and mid-November. And so I'll be connecting with folks who are going to be joining for that workshop. I did a prep session with Sarah and Jeff that I thought was really helpful, so I'll reach out to schedule that with you all as well. Jeff and Sarah, anything to add about that implementation session, reflections you had?
You want to go, Sarah? You want go ahead? No, I thought it was great. It was good listening into the conversations, standing in front of each of the boards um, as people went through, and there was a lot of banter back and forth of different initiatives that were up on the boards. And it was also actually good to be in the crowd during the lunch aspect, with Jackie, when you mentioned that. Um, there were a lot of folks at different tables around me. I was kind of leaning in and picking up conversations, and I think people were they're very proud of it. I think it's something for people to be proud of that the state is doing this and taking these initiatives and really refreshing to be able to make moves on projects of this nature.
Yeah, I will add that I have heard a lot of conversations about people being very impressed with the Scorp and very proud of it and starting to relate to it in a different way that I've heard before. So I would second that. And being in the room, there were a variety of different partners, outdoor recreation partners that I ended up speaking with, folks that I don't typically interact with. So, I was really happy to have those conversations and have their perspectives. And I think in the projects as well, I will be interested to see, how that kind of sugared off. But it seemed like there was very strong feelings about the projects, and my own experience with it too. There were projects that sort of rose to the top pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Great. Thank you, guys. Um, all right, so just a couple more things before I turn it over to you. I want to put on your radar that so we started earlier this year, led by the Vermont Department of Tourism and Marketing, the local level outdoor recreation economic impact project. This project, tourism was able to put funding through their EDA grant into this project, and we've been working hard on it all this year. I've been supporting that work with Heather as well as Maureen from the Department of Tourism. And we're wrapping up the contract. It's wrapping up at the end of this month. We have a name for the toolkit, which is one of the big outcomes of this work. It's called the Vermont Core Toolkit. Core standing for Community Outdoor Recreation Economy. And there's a lot more to come on what that toolkit is, what we're doing with it. But I wanted to let you know that the contract is wrapping up, and the next step is really working on a launch strategy. And we're aiming for that to be released likely in early January. But that's something that I'll be working on with the Department of Tourism and Marketing and thinking about how do we really roll this out and get it out to communities so they can begin using it. And at a high level, the goal of that toolkit, just as a reminder, is to help communities at the ground level, at the local level, start to generate data, information related to the economic impact of outdoor recreation, so that they can fill in the gaps we know exist in the federal data we get from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Really, that national level data is great. It helps us identify trends. It helps us compare our outdoor economy to other states. But we know that at the local level, there's more information needed to leverage outdoor recreation for investment in projects, awareness about economic connections to leaders, select board members, et cetera, who communities might want to engage in their outdoor recreation economy. And then finally, the December steering committee meeting is on your calendars. It's been scheduled for the second Friday in December. It is scheduled as a business meeting right now, only for an hour, but I'd like to extend that to an hour and a half, so that we can do like a year in review wrap up presentation and have some time to reflect on this past year. And so I just wanted to put that on your radar. And also, for the folks who are here on the call today, just ask if you see any concerns with extending that meeting to an hour and a half to accommodate a little extra presentation.
Jack, remind me of the time again. Is it the same?
So it would be 11 to 12. And I should have looked up the date before jumping on this call, but it's the second Friday in December.
It's the 12th.
The 12th.
So would you do like 10:30 to noon?
Yeah, probably 10:30 to noon.
That's fine.
Cool.
It's fine for me.
Sounds good. I'll send an email out to the group too, just to gauge since we're a small group today, but it's good to know it works for you guys. Great. Okay. With that, I'm gonna stop talking and we're gonna start with updates from Becca and Heather just about what FPR has been up to and what CCD has been working on. And then I'll turn it over to the steering committee members on the meeting to give updates. So Becca and Heather, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jackie. I only wanted to go first to say that I think Jackie remembers how terribly I accepted the baton at the last business meeting and was not prepared with updates. So she actually sent Heather and I an email this morning with some suggestions so that I don't do what I did last time. That's just how terrific Jackie is. Um, the suggestions that I got from Jackie are perfect. Act 59. This is the 30 by 30 bill that we've been working on for a while. We're in phase 2. I think at the last meeting, I was able to share that we were in the midst of regional stakeholder meetings, got to enjoy the company of many of you and some who aren't here, but are VOREC steering committee members. The contractor's been synthesizing that information, and with a little bit of a late summer pause, trying to figure out how to reshape public engagement in the process. We're kind of back up and running. There's a TAC meeting scheduled for November with some work during the intervening weeks to try and begin to develop some action items under the objectives and pathways that folks were providing input in August, July and August. So the next time you see this, it'll likely have action items. The exciting thing from the recreation standpoint is many of them can be drawn from Move Forward Together Vermont. So we really feel like we're a leg up as a community as it relates to conservation because we have so much that has already been developed with really robust public input. I think the next set of regional stakeholder meetings will likely be VHCB is saying December, but I think it's probably more likely that it's going to be January. So work is happening to develop those action items now. Technical advisory committee members like Nick Bennett and Alex Smith, Alex is a representative from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, are thinking and talking about this. Claire and I had a really fun conversation with them earlier this week and expect to see some really wonderful outcomes for recreation from the efforts of those involved. Any questions on Act 59 from folks before I pass it off to Claire to talk about e-bikes? All right, Claire, do you mind providing an update on the e-bike policy edits?
Great, thanks, Becca. Hi, everyone. We have been working on an e-bike policy for state lands for about the past year. We are in the final, hopefully, bit of push to get it out for public comment. This policy has been developed by a working group of, or a draft policy has been developed by a working group of state lands and state parks managers and informed by technical experts like Jeff, who's here with us today, as well as others in the mountain bike and adaptive biking community, has gotten extensive review within FPR, and now just a couple more check boxes to check before we get it out for public comment. So keep an eye out for that. And what we're hoping to do is that it can integrate well with the policies outside of state lands as well. I think that's about where we are. It's exciting. Just so all of you know, really briefly, the statute says that e-bikes are bicycles and should be managed as such, and so that's how we're complying with that statute by creating this policy. And this is for not just mountain bike trails, which we do host mountain bike trails on state lands at Perry Hill in Waterbury, at the Howe Block in Waitsfield, among other places, but also like our rail trails. Like we have the rail trail through Groton State Forest, we have the West River Trail in Jamaica State Park, and then also our forest highways, which is like worst misnomer that I've ever heard. They're the mostly forest roads, but also park roads that go through state of Vermont properties that are not municipal. So like they are fully under our jurisdiction, and they range from a paved road through a state park to what to many would look like just a gated skid road. But they are our permanent road infrastructure on state lands. And so the policy covers all of those types of resources. So it isn't just, like I said, it isn't just a mountain bike policy, it's for biking in general. Any questions on that?
I think that was it on our end, Jackie.
Great. Heather, do you want to share some updates from ACCD?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Sorry, it looks like my mouse is about to die, so I couldn't get myself off mute there. One quick thing I was going to just mention, you were with your update on the Vermont Core Toolkit. I just wanted to reiterate that people understand that one of the things that I love about this is it's going to be a bit of a self-serve, right? So that we are standing up a web portal for this toolkit so that folks can explore all the resources, get the access the tool and the data and do their own self-assessment really in their own time. So I know, as Jackie said, there'll be a lot more on the launch coming, but I just kind of want to reiterate that this isn't just going to be a document somewhere, that the toolkit will be living and breathing and easy to access. So I guess following up on that, again, this was one of the projects we were able to do with our EDA federal funding, which is coming to an end. So those glory days are quickly behind us. We were able to wrap up. We're just wrapping up now our summer fall campaign, which we were able to do, everything from, having ads on streaming services like Amazon and Netflix to out of home activations on the New York subway and all sorts of fun things, in Brooklyn on kiosk street level and so forth that may not be the reality going forward, but we've been able to commission some brand lift studies based on that level of marketing. We were able to do an advertising effectiveness study on winter, and we'll do one now in summer as well, which is really going to give us some great ROI numbers when we are going to be looking to talk to the legislature this coming year. So a lot of kind of exciting projects we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up our visitor intercept survey, which will then have seasonal reports as well as one final report about, what our visitor profiles look like. We are going to be coming out soon with our 2024 economic impact report, so we're able to do that again. Anyway, pretty exciting, but yeah, all of that is coming to an end, unfortunately. But what we've done is really tried to prioritize that money on things that will have a lasting impact, like the toolkit, like the research. We've also been filming this summer on new creative that's part of our BIPOC visitation campaign, as well as another series of hero videos that are based summer, fall, winter. So we're going to have assets in our pocket, so to speak, that we'll have ready to use for the next visitation season in 2026.
Heather, can I jump in? And not to put you on the spot, but I know that tourism also funded with the EDA grants, VIMBA as well as VOBA to do some projects. And I'm wondering, I don't know if we've shared that with this group, and I think the outcomes of those investments are really cool. So I don't know if you want to just say a couple words about that as well.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. I mean, with VOBA, we were able to, I think this group's probably seen VOBA's outreach in terms of the trail builder workshops, the bike mechanics and ski techs. So I can't remember off the top of my head how many workshops we were able to fund, but we were able to fund the, curriculum development, the training for that, and then just so that all those could be held in different areas of the state, which is pretty exciting. We were actually able to supplement our original award to them with some extra money to run a few more at the end, which is pretty exciting. And then with VIMBA, we were able to fund the creation of a interactive mountain biking guide, and some, press support to get some more attention to that and so forth. So, I mean, that's kind of follows on what I was saying. Like, we really tried to think about what can we fund that we will have going forward. So we have these new tools, around outdoor rec, that kind of has that foundation we'll still be able to build on. I would say the VIMBA award was one of, I think it's 15 different Teach 'em awards that we were able to do is our acronym. And many of those had other sort of outdoor rec components as well. So we hope this won't be the end of being able to do projects like that, but we'll have to wait and see. We all know funding is not guaranteed. I guess yeah, Carrie.
I just wanted to ask, what do you think the likelihood is of, building a better budget for tourism in the state of Vermont? I ask this because year after year I go to conferences in Maine and I see what they're able to do with the funding that they have, and I feel like Vermont is absolutely 100% there in terms of like what we have to offer the general public in terms of being a destination. And ultimately you guys just don't ever get the funding. And so were you able to use any of the money for like some convincing studies that will let people know that this type of activity actually has a direct impact on our economy and make the argument that you deserve more money?
Yeah, well, thank you, Carrie. I would say number one, I would encourage anybody and everybody to, if you ever have any interactions with legislatures, feel free to mention, hey, it'd be great if tourism had a bigger budget. I am definitely working that angle through the governor's office to see if we can get that an increase in our base appropriation. I will be honest, this is a really tough year to be asking for a base increase. I am trying very desperately to make the argument that, from our perspective, what we're trying to do is grow the pie. We're bringing in tax revenue, and which helps fund all of the other programs that we are running out of money to pay for, or if it's to pay down property taxes or whatever it may be. Like, that's our role. Like any business who's struggling, well, what's your sales strategy, right? What's your second job? We're the second job for the state. Let's bring in more outside money. I do hope that some of the investments we've made in, like I mentioned, the brand lift studies and the ROI studies is, if people understand we're bringing in outside money and they understand that our work directly impacts whether people come and how much they spend, that they can hold those two thoughts in their head at the same time, and believe that marketing does have an impact. I mean, that's what we can show is like the incremental ad influence trips and what that looks like. And then we've also been able to do some brand research studies that show that basically 40% of the country really does not have an awareness of Vermont as a destination. I mean, yeah, we're there, but we're not top of mind because we're not putting ourselves top of mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, Maine's $17 million budget is hard to compete with, especially when they've had it for 20 years at that level about.
And they put a lot of money into research, and
yeah,
if we could just like scale it to our square footage, square mileage, we'd still be doing better.
I know. I mean, the real crux of it is that that's funded as a percentage of their, rooms and meals tax,
right?
And so they get a percentage every year. Our legislative body does not like dedicated taxes like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
Jeff,
will do my part.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Carrie. No, but I mean, I am serious though. Like, I can say it, but I mean, we know like any conversation you're able to have, if we just like mention that this is a tool we could activate. I feel like it's an underutilized, unrecognized economic development tool for the state that we just, for whatever reason, don't feel like we've taken advantage of what it could do for us.
Yep. We should send our legislators to the Maine conference on tourism.
Yeah. See what they do. Were you going to say something, Jeff?
Oh yeah, I was just wanted, I was at the Outdoor Economy Conference a couple of weeks back in North Carolina, And it kind of hit me that they do a great job. Western North Carolina does a great job integrating tourism with their local VOBA, with their local type VOREC, and all three of those entities really like working tightly together. But the other thing that hit me was there were 500 people there that are all outdoor oriented people, and those people travel. So do we target these big, the International Trail Summit, 1,000 people? They're all travelers. They're all outdoor people. So should we target the state to target these 100 or 500 to 1,000 person conferences to have a booth to push Vermont? Because those people are players in the outdoor space that want to go places. So it could be a new angle, new idea, just to throw that at you. Some of those sponsorships and booths are not really that expensive, and if we're going to be there presenting, it's not going to be hard for us to like work a booth for a half hour, a couple hours at a time. So,
And it
just trying to.
could be trails organizations and VOBA and the entities that would benefit from being there anyways and could kind of talk the talk. And it wouldn't look like a tourism spend. It would look like,
Education spend.
an education. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know.
There is some of that. Heather, I'll let you speak for yourself, but just so you all are aware, some of that is happening. VOBA has attended some New England or more local based events with small businesses. And Heather, I just heard that I believe tourism is going to be at the Outdoor Adventure Show in Montreal in March. So there is some of that happening, but it would be interesting to think about, how do we, like Jeff, as you've noted, maybe have a presence at those events that's notable to folks who might come to Vermont. But sorry, Heather, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yes, we are going to be at the Montreal Outdoor Adventure Show. We were there last year as well, which is interesting timing. Last March, as people can remember. But I would say, Jeff, if you have thoughts of specific events, I mean, I think that's just the key as to like, what does the budget allow? Like, what is the logistics? What is the people power that needs to go behind it? Or if it's a VOBA event, I mean, great reminder that like if somebody else is going to be there, we can provide tourism stuff, quote unquote. So we can, we don't all necessarily have to be at every conference, but if we just can help get out the message that each one of us is trying to advocate for, that'd be great. So
Yeah. The National
definitely
Outdoor
open to it.
Recreation Conference in Duluth is coming up in May, so that could be a good one
Okay.
to be at,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending that info, we
Yeah,
can make sure it's on our radar. That'd be great.
definitely.
And then it just sort of reminds me also to your question, Carrie, like the other big project that we've been working on is our destination management plan, and really laying that out in the terms of like we have invested the time, with our stakeholders, with a lot of listening sessions and other input onto what is the future of tourism, slash Vermont as a destination look like in our state. And there's definitely a lot of elements in there about how advocacy organizations can work together where it's on funding, or just like, what does it look like to have, how can we think about the Vermont visitor experience, whether that's around accessibility or off-peak seasonality, or supporting, making sure we're spreading people geographically across the state. I think there's like 15 different objectives in there of what we're trying to accomplish. So hopefully those all work together in terms of, yes, we've really thought about this. This is what the money would do if you gave us more information and so forth. So I'm under no illusions that it'll be an easy win, but we're definitely going to go for it. So, sorry, not to take up too much time. I did want to mention, and I'll just put it in the chat, that we do have Canada is still very much on our mind. We have stayed advertising in the market, and we do have a page for special deals. If there's any organizations or companies who are offering special discounts to Canadians, it's one of the places where we do push traffic. So I'll just put that link in the chat. And if anyone, I'll just put some more information if you know in your networks anyone who can take advantage of that, because we do keep pushing traffic to that. We have both a French and an English landing page that then leads to those deals as a way to softly keep pushing our market. 100% love for Canadians is part of our messaging. So hopefully nobody can disagree with that. But thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. And just so you all are aware, the other thing from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development you might have seen, and that I certainly have on my radar is housing. There has been a lot of activity. The governor signed an executive order, or well, I believe it was, yeah, it was in September, promoting housing construction and rehabilitation. So, Heather, I don't know if there's anything more to say on that executive order other than this is a priority for the state and one that I've been seeing a lot of activity around. It does connect to the outdoor sector, especially in workforce development, and I think as we move forward, just being aware that we are working on that, and that is a part of the sector that we touch. And I know that is coming up more and more for communities thinking about outdoor economy as an
Yeah,
opportunity.
and I can provide the links that people haven't seen the executive order. It's there's a lot in there. And I think some of it is fairly technical of, stuff that maybe each of us don't deal with every day, but there's the agency, it's not as if this wasn't happening before the executive order, but it just sort of formalizes a bunch of the work the agency has been doing on setting specific targets, and how do we meet those targets, and having dashboards available of like how we are meeting our goals, and what it's going to take to get us there. And our Secretary Curley has been named to be working on some just different process improvement when it comes to permitting and so forth. So I think it's like just a watch this space. But I can provide that sort of background if folks haven't taken a look at that. And I think it also could be a topic maybe for someone who can speak more to the details than I can, maybe for a future meeting if people are interested in that. So
Great. Thank you, Heather. And oh, did you have a comment, Sarah?
No, when we get to the steering committee, I will go first if I could.
Okay, sounds good. I was going to
Okay.
transition that direction.
Okay.
I did see a question from Brett in the chat for the steering committee about if VOREC is anticipating outdoor economy challenges with international workers. Brett, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you asking about international workers moving to the state? Um,
I don't know what the difference is between EB5 comes to mind, but that may be totally the wrong thing. But Stratton area, southern Vermont, our ski areas are heavily staffed with international people, Latin America in particular, and Africa, and it does not feel like a hospitable environment, even if they can get through the visa work. And I just wondering where that stands, given what's happening. And I would be nervous. I don't know not to be nervous about workforce issues, seeing how international workers supply so much of it in South Central Vermont for the resorts.
yeah, Brett,
J1s arrive soon, all resorts per yeah. Okay. J1s. Yeah, that's my family's been in with that community for years, and it's just I feel bad. I feel sad for all of those people who are here or are coming. So anyway, I just wondered if you're anticipating a pinch or maybe a program to make sure they feel more welcome, despite what the country's doing. I don't know.
I mean, from my perspective, Brett, I think it's a great question. I haven't heard yet. I mean, J1's H2B visa, like it's always a bit of a like who's going to get what. And, I definitely hear from hospitality businesses who are actually now just working with, contract workers who might already be here as opposed to trying to re-up and get the months to work out, because oftentimes businesses are open for more months than work for some of these programs. But as opposed to like a welcoming and I two thoughts. I don't know if people will self-select and not come because they're worried. I don't know yet if people are working on programs to make sure they do feel safe when they're here. I appreciate the question, and it's something that I'm going to keep in my mind for the Vermont Lodging Association's meeting coming up in a few weeks, and I would be happy to report back to this group if and what the conversation there is, which I think is where we might be able to kind of get more on the ground information.
Thank you.
Same here. I meet up with a lot of the ski areas this time of year. And while I haven't heard anything from them yet, it would be interesting to know if this is something that they're expect to be challenged by and or are working with Molly to create programs, Molly Mahar from the Ski Area Association, creating programs to make sure they feel welcome.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Breck, for
Yeah,
putting
it was
that on
great.
our radar. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to steering committee members to do round robin updates. And Sarah, since you called it, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I was very excited, Heather, about the conversation around the executive order and housing development. And so before I forget, all of the work that has been happening at the local level. Oh, sorry, and Sarah Pelkey, Hotel to Pulteney. So I've been in this space for about 2 or 3 months now with the executive order, housing development, local landowners that are, starting to relate to the outdoor recreational economy in a different way, and considering additional trail development, considering town plans, considering development on, some greenfields parcels. So that executive order was very timely and interesting, and we've started having conversations, Jackie and I have, about housing development in outdoor recreation communities, specifically. The 802 Homes program was recently made available and as a pilot project, and I think that that's changing the conversation locally in Pulteney rather quickly. We've also been involved in a lot of land use planning, Act 181, future land use planning with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. So just having that opportunity as they're updating their regional plan to consider growth management or future land use of surrounding our village. So I just wanted to put that out there. I've spent quite a bit of time in the past 3 months with property owners that are considering what this community is and how they will relate to it or be able to add to it in the future years. So that is one thing that I wanted to highlight. The other thing, as part of that, and Claire and I were talking about this at the conference earlier this week, is bringing a conservation lens to that type of development in communities. I think it's really easy to have folks that are excited, particularly in a community that is recovering from economic injury, really, and trying to regrow its population, but having a lot of interest in development or in economic development can be exciting, but when you get to a certain spot, the conservation lens is very important, and it feels like we might be in that spot. So I appreciate those sessions at the conference, at the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Conference, and I think that might be something that I would like to see more of in outdoor recreation communities, having those conversations about conservation partners and what that looks like. And then the other thing that's been happening locally is really around wayfinding. We've hosted several walk audits. AARP funded a walk audit with our downtown organization. And then I think I mentioned at the last meeting that the Society for Outdoor Recreation Professionals was in Pulteney and also supplemented that walk audit. So we have sort of the inward facing community assessment and then an outward facing with folks that have visited the community and what they are noticing, and they both started talking about wayfinding. So it's interesting to be having that conversation. It's a very important part of an outdoor recreation economy, but it sometimes does not feel like the highest priority in a small community because it's so small. But I think that it's risen to the top now, that folks are, there's enough assets in the community that we really need to prioritize that. So I think that is probably the three most important things on my mind. But I'm super excited to hear this conversation around the housing development and the executive order and to see how that starts to play out. And so are some of the property owners in the community.
Thanks, Sarah.
Mhm.
Who's next? Jeff, Abby, Carrie?
I can go. I'm So, wow. So since August, I did spend a chunk of time in the Adirondacks, which took me away from Vermont. But right now, we are in the process of wrapping up a couple of kind of major efforts. One, the VOREC project, the flood recovery VOREC grant that we got for the Lamoille River Valley. We have a couple of final river cleanups taking place, really just removing large items from the river. It's easier to do when the water's really low like it is. So we had one, I think, last weekend, and we have one more coming up. So those will be the final two components of that project, and then that will be wrapped up. We're also finishing up work with the Trail Accessibility Hub, also VOREC funded. And we're going to be working on a few final accessible assessments. But the other thing that is a little bit of an add-on, but I think we're able to do with the information that we've gathered through all of this, is to be focusing on creating accessible descriptions of access points using the data that we collected in a number of these assessments. We all know that not everybody needs us to make major improvements, but many people need very clear and specific descriptions of those access points. So while we are moving forward with trying to do improvements based on the assessments that we made, we're also looking at possibly just making more trip descriptions and access point descriptions so that people can make better decisions based on what's already there. So that's just one element that we didn't really plan on doing in the VOREC grant proposal, but has really come out as a clear need from the disabilities community that we're trying to do what we can to add to that as quickly as possible, and then take that on as kind of a standard going forward as we create new access, taking all the measurements we need to in order to be able to describe those access points to people who need more information about them. So it's really been an awesome process of our understanding of what people need has evolved so much in the past couple of years, and it's changed the way that we operate. So hands down, just a really exciting development for us as an organization, and I think for waterway access for us, but also, everybody in the state of Vermont talking about access and accessibility. We're just really making great strides in understanding what we can do with what we already have and how much better we can do in the future. And then this time of year, we always are shifting towards our kind of end of the year fundraising, and we'll be hosting our online auction coming up soon and soliciting folks around the region to make donations to that. It's a really awesome opportunity for us to raise some extra cash for our work, but also a promotional opportunity for the businesses and partners in our communities to, offer something fairly low cost to them, but high return on the visibility through our online auction, which gets quite a bit of attention from users going forward. And then we're publishing a 25th anniversary book, which is kind of fun. We're going to hopefully have that ready. We're planning to have it ready for the Christmas rush. All of the nonprofits have a Christmas rush. But yeah, that's kind of what we're working on right now, just cleaning up this past year and moving into planning for next year, getting ready for those RTP grants, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks, Carrie. Abby?
There you go. I'm going to jump around a little. I'll go the past couple weeks first. We hosted up in the NEK in partnership with Forest Parks and Rec through the Vermont Forest Strategic Roadmap Implementation Committee, big old mouthful of a committee name, but we had a NEK Forest Economy Tour. We took a bunch of leaders in the industry, but also legislators. Rural Community Transportation bussed us all to the farthest point you could go in the Northeast Kingdom. We went like 20 miles into the woods through the old Champion lands, which Weyerhaeuser now manages, and then we brought them into Kingdom trails on private landowners' property to show a trail that was being built after a forest, after a timber harvest, and the harvest was done with trails in mind. And so it was just this like really awesome, it really was an awesome fall day, but an awesome day to share that story about the importance of our forest industry, but also the intersections of outdoor recreation in that industry and how they can complement each other. And I think we had great turnout. It really was a success. It was a fun day too. And what else? Vermont Trails and Greenway Council is this past spring, we started our strategic plan for, the next couple of years. And one of those main parts of the plan is an advocacy strategy for ourselves. So lately we've been like honing that in, gearing up so we're more prepared when we walk into the 2026 session. So that's kind of coming into a final draft. And those overarching advocacy goals of ensuring that the needs of our trail communities are addressed in Vermont's policies and regulatory and funding landscapes. So again, focus on landowner recognition like we've done in the past, and funding, of course, is always up there as well. And things coming up, there is the NEK Collaborative, my new organization. We host an annual conference called NEK Together. It's always in the past been at Burke Mountain, but we're kind of hitting the reset button on this organization. It will be at Highland Center for the Arts, and it's really the one day out of the year that the entire kingdom gets together. The theme of that conference will be collaboration, of course, but I think not only highlighting success stories of collaboration, but highlighting the fact that federal funding landscape is shifting and that we are going to actually be forced to collaborate and lean on each other and be more efficient and effective together. So that will be a lot of storytelling that day. I encourage you all to come. It's a beautiful venue. It's only 9 to 1. It's a shorter day. There'll be a lot of the creative economy will be very present that day because it's in a theater. But it also will have representation from all the sectors in the kingdom that are so special, which outdoor rec is one of them. And I'm working with Kelly for the VOBA conference, which is going to be held up in the kingdom at Burke Mountain. It's the 13th in November. Yes. Yeah.
That's right.
And she's got an incredible agenda as always, and I'm working with her specifically on highlighting the kingdom and collaboration. I think the workshop the panel is kingdom collaborations. I mean, what more could it be? So just picking a few people like Kingdom Trails, Burke Mountain, Lead and Tackle, some retail stores, and then some lodging private landowners will be on the panel to kind of, again, highlight how they're all working together in order to, make the kingdom a really awesome place for outdoor recreation and attract folks to come on up and visit and then eventually move here.
Exactly. I think I'm going to turn it over to Jeff just because we have 4 minutes left. Cool. Yeah, we really took up that time. Jeff, go ahead and then I'll wrap us up.
Come on. I'll hustle through this. We worked on T-turn projects with KBF and VIMBA for the accessible adventures in Vermont and how to build a recreation adaptive trail. Those are coming on board right now. I did attend a VOBA bike mechanic clinic and it was amazing. So they did a great job and I saved us a couple $1,000s because I'm randomly fixing stuff all the time. So it's awesome. So that was cool. We were at the Outdoor Economy Conference a couple weeks ago. We presented on the economic impact analysis as well as our trail assessments. We are wrapping up the economic impact analysis in the next few weeks. So we will have some numbers. That was a VOREC funded project. Working with Carrie on our final assessments, water assessments. We do have one more mountain bike assessment as well. And then we're kind of pulling all that information together as far as that goes. We'll be hosting FPR's big meeting here at Vermont Adaptive in a couple of weeks. So that's kind of cool. And Burlington recorded our Burlington program at the Sailing Center recorded our largest summer ever as far as programming. So that was huge. Claire Rock has been instrumental with us because we're building a yurt behind Bolton Valley. So that's awesome. Love Nick from over at S6 and Woodstock. So I think he's going to be a great addition for us. And we're in the process right now of just onboarding Stratton and Bromley into the system and getting all of our new volunteers and everybody kind of running through and working on all our resort contracts. So we're really excited for winter. We'll be at the Boston Ski Show in a couple weeks. And yeah, it's about cool.
Speed round from Jeff.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I think we're actually ahead of schedule now, so I won't take us too long. There's a lot happening in the outdoor economy space in the state, obviously. Thank you all for those updates. I'm going to check in with everyone on the December meeting and extending to an hour and a half. We will be at the VOBA Outdoor Economy Summit as we covered on November 13th. I have Carrie, Ava, and Abby, I believe, who are joining me for that implementation session. Really psyched to have you guys participating in that. And I will schedule a prep session with you ahead of that so we can connect and talk about how that session is going to flow. Also, Brett, thank you for joining today. I see we have Robert as well listening in. These meetings are always open to folks who are interested and want to listen in from who are not on the steering committee. So really
Thank you.
excited to have you here and listening. And with that, I'm gonna wrap us up a minute early. So thank you all. I hope you have a good weekend, good long weekend for those of you that have Monday off, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody. Have a
Jackie.
great weekend.